My name is Aaronica Cole, and I am a local multi-passionate entrepreneur. That means that I enjoy doing a lot. I'm a maker, so I sew, I make clothing, I design sewing patterns for both commercial as well as indie pattern companies. I'm also a small business coach, and I actually focus on creative business owners because creative business owners are the ones who are told that we can't make money, but we can because we're the ones who make the world go round. And then also, I'm an influencer, so I like to use my voice to help inspire, motivate, and educate. I've always been plus size. Even at my smallest, I'm plus size. And I just remember as a kid not having access to clothing that was age appropriate and my size. So as an adult, it became something that I was passionate about. Like I never saw myself as being fashionable or stylish because they didn't make it in my size. I just essentially put my own spin on things. And so when people would see me show up, they would be like, I just know you're a fashion vlogger. And I was like, I'm actually here talking about business. But maybe I should be. Maybe it is that you're talking about something that I should be doing. And so I began to kind of pursue that. I started sewing when I was like 6, 7. I started hand sewing. And I've always had very busy fingers. I've always been moving my hands. And so when I was that age, I was deconstructing things in my mom's house, and she would be like, so also, I would love it if you could not take apart your bed or not take apart these things, and let's teach you how to use a sewing machine in hopes that you'll create. So she put me into a sewing class where I learned how to use a sewing machine, and I thought that I just was not fully subscribed. I did not enjoy it. I did not love it. And a lot of it had to do with because I made a drawstring backpack, and I was like, who wears drawstring backpacks? Certainly not me, because no one wants this digging in your shoulders. So I was not fully subscribed to how this was going to help me create things. I think that the first kind of introduction into entrepreneurship that I got was when I was pregnant with my oldest. I was laid off from working in corporate America. And in order for me to have a doula, I had a birth doula, I freelanced, we bartered services. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And at the time, I had already kind of started writing. I was a blogger as well. And I started my first site that monetized, and it was called The Mommy Memoirs. And I was a writer, and people paid me to review their products and things like that were related to baby products. I eventually went back into the corporate world and met my now husband. And then I got pregnant with our second child. And I was just like, I don't think that working for other people is for me. When people think of clothing, a lot of times they think of it in a superficial term, right? Where it's just clothes, right? Like you're just so shallow because clothing matters to you. And it's so much more than that, right? When we wear something that is either of a color or fit or style that speaks to us, we show up differently. Like if I felt like I was constantly having to adjust my clothing or tug down or pull up, and I'm giving a keynote, I'm not being fully present, as opposed to where if I'm wearing something that I feel comfortable in, I can show up and be present in a different way and allow my gift to actually shine. And I get to touch the people who I'm meant to touch. I am not a modest designer. Like if you're looking for modestly designed sewing patterns, don't come see about my stuff. If you want a bustier that's gonna be size inclusive to support your big old tittles, I got you. If you are looking for a cute skirt that's gonna show a little thigh and show off that backyard, I'm your girl. If you are looking for a potato sack or something that is going to give full coverage, you will have to pass on me. And the reason why is because there's enough of that out there. So I love that as a designer, I get to have a voice in what I want to show up, or like how I feel like we should be able to be seen. And I love that. I love that. Typically in sewing or in patterning, we have knit fabrics, we have woven fabrics, right? Knit fabrics are stretchy, so meaning that they're gonna contour to the body. Woven fabrics are not. They're going to have to be well tailored. For me, I used to love knits, right? Why? Because knit fabric is a lot more forgiving. If I made it a little too small, it's okay, it could stretch, it's fine. For my third pregnancy with my son, I wore pretty much all the same clothes while I was pregnant that I wore pre-pregnancy and post-pregnancy. Why? Because they were all made of stretch fabric. It was like, oh girl, you getting big, it's okay. We still love you. We're gonna contour to these curves, right? And so initially, that is what I sewed with, and that's what I designed for, because it was easy for me though, because that's how I got started. Now I have moved to doing more tailored looks with woven fabrics and experimenting with them. And now I feel like I love them both for different reasons. The way that I learned how to read patterns is I became a volunteer pattern tester. So that meant that I was performing a service for a pattern designer, but also in that, I was in a small group where I could ask the questions that I needed to ask. Hey, what does that mean? I see that it's written, these are words I understand. What does this mean in the context of what you want me to create? So I had that opportunity to give that feedback and be the beginner and dare to be bad at something, while also being able to give back to that designer. So to go from that to now be the designer is wow. I don't only sew for myself, and I do a lot of storytelling, especially about being plus size, because I'm plus size now. And then I also have 2 children who are not of a standard size, but I love making them their clothes because they get to feel cool, comfortable, confident, and something that was made for their body. And so I do a lot of storytelling about why it is that I do what I do, because the impact is greater than just me. Now we're going back to being like, oh, plus size bodies, oh, you're fat, or we're fat shaming, fat phobia is coming back. So the notion that a fat Black woman is over here taking up space and living in comfort in what it is that they want to wear, and not wearing 50 shades of black, 50 shades of beige, 50 shades of potato sacks, right? And is actually showing her midriff or showing her curves, showing her body, and doing it in a way that is unashamedly and inspiring not just the people who are on the internet, but the next generation coming up behind me and my children, is a statement. That's loud, right? That's a legacy. And to me, that's important. We might be paying attention to what we put into our bodies, but what about what we get dressed in, right? That matters too. And if you are feeling down, you can use color theory and what you put on to help change that mood if that's what you're ready to do. I think that there's a direct relationship between our mental and emotional health and what we get dressed in and how we adorn ourselves, right? And I think that that's what I would really like for people to get, that style is not just fashion, right? Style is us, it's how we manifest. There's all these coaches, but they chose me for a reason. A lot of it has to do with how we make people feel about themselves, about their businesses, about their ideas, right? It's how we show up. And I feel very passionate about how I do that and how I do that in that business world. And even being able to relate to a creative business owner and see where their problem is and say, hey, let's put some structure and strategy here, because this is not your zone of genius. But if we strategize in this area, you're able to function in your zone of genius. And that's what's going to be the difference between your business being successful and failing. As a workaholic, there's nothing more that I would love to do than to sit at my computer and design a new pattern, or to sit and sew that new pattern that I just designed, and to make those edits and to not have the interruption. I would be much more productive and I would make a lot more money. But also, you know, after having a double mastectomy and having kind of some of these surgeries that I've had in the past 2 years, it doesn't matter. What matters is that when my kids are my age, they can look back and say, oh man, I remember that time that my mom was on the bus and she road tripped to us to, you know, the state playoffs, and she was on the sidelines cheering for us. Even though we lost, she was still there and made us feel really good. You know, those are the things that matter to me most. I didn't go to school to become a pattern designer. I did not think that I had enough fashion sense or was beautiful enough to be seen as a model, right? I was just someone who was matriculating through life and just so happened to be like, sure, yes, okay, yeah, I can do it, right? A couple of times. And I feel like because of that, that allows people to be like, yeah, I can do it too. My goal in life is never to create a life that people feel like they could never attain. My goal is always to create a life and showcase things so that people can say, I can do it too. My name is Aaronica Cole, and I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur who dabbles in sewing, designing, clothing, as well as business coaching. This is my voice, and this is my life.